We'll now be getting into some of the more esoteric modulators, and we're going to begin with the mix. The mix is very similar to a macro control, only it's like a macro on steroids where there's a lot more potential because instead of just having that one knob turn, there's actually the option for 3 different parameters to be moving all around. And you can also then adjust the ranges on the fly. So this does kind of work in more of a bipolar fashion. And the way it works is pretty simple. If I want to have this going, and I want to be able to open up the filter on one end, and on the other end, I want it to close down. What I would do is I would set the cutoff here in a positive direction. And what this means is if I go to either side and I bring the value up, what we'll be doing is opening up the filter. So if I go hard to the B side and I start to bring this up, we can see that cutoff increasing. But now there's just like way too much reverb. So we probably wouldn't want that. And so what I could then do is I could go to the extreme here, and what I would do is I would set this up so that I'm bringing the mix value back down to the point where we eliminate the reverb when I go to that extreme. So now when I go and I make that transition, the filter cutoff is going to be opening, and then we're also going to be shutting off the reverb, as compared to on the A side where we're still dead in the middle, we're going to be starting at this point and then opening it up and then decreasing the reverb. So from one side to the other, we can go. So this is very useful for live performance, and if you do have a MIDI controller where you have more of a crossfader, this would be a really cool thing to obviously map or to go in and use another modulator to control any of these positions if you want to kind of have them jump around. With the A side, if I start to go down, what that's going to actually do is it's going to now bring the filter cutoff below this point, and it's going to increase the amount of reverb. So I might just bring this down a little bit. And now you see that on the A side, we go to the other extreme and we've added quite a bit more reverb. So let's just go back to somewhere that maybe will still sound nice and useful. I'm just going to add a little bit of like resonance. And this resonance is not being controlled by this crossfader, just so you're aware. So what's actually pretty neat about this is if you had this set up for different songs, let's say this is your go-to in a live DJ set, maybe you can get away with more extreme, or maybe you want less extreme and you want to go more in this direction. So we still have a decent amount of reverb. And then later for another section, you start to increase this, and this is then moving the parameters because it's increasing the range that this A to B is going to go through. So yeah, this one is really cool. You could even set up an additional mix to control parameters inside of this mix. I mean, that's, you know, sometimes there's things that in your head you think that would be really cool, but in practice, would you ever actually do it? Probably not. But I can see myself using this a lot, not only if I was doing live performance, which I never do, but for actually making music, to be able to transition to different values quickly by going in and automating this, right? I could have it go from one extreme to the other all in one fell swoop like that. Or maybe give it a little bit of a movement. Well, in this case, actually would work better the other way. Right? So you could see the potential for this. So it's not that different to a macro control, but if you want to change ranges on the fly and you also just like messing around with a crossfader, I mean, hey, definitely go with the mix.